Comic Boom here to review Batman number 50. This is the actual spoiler-filled review, not the pre-review that was ruined sort of by the New York Times and leaking it to the all over the world, etc, etc, etc. But let's get right to it, guys. Batman 50. There are two characters in this issue that embody the entire Tom King run so far, and that are the two characters of Tweedledee and Tweedledum. I kid you not. Tom King is known for his use of that wonderful little phrase, juxtaposition. Over in Mr. Miracle, he juxtaposes the horrific horrors of war versus the mundane everydayness of average life. Everyone says that, and everyone seems to love Mr. Miracle, and I like Mr. Miracle too, but it's starting to wear thin. In Batman 50, we see Tom King juxtaposing in a Tweedledee and Tweedledum fashion not the differences between Batman and Catwoman, but the similarities. In fact, that's one of the things that readers who don't read a lot of Batman are going to really love about Batman 50, because he focuses on the similarities between Selina and Bruce, particularly their eyes. The first time they met, Selina looked into his eyes and saw that he wasn't just an asshole, that he was actually a nice guy, despite the fact that he was beating up a bunch of bad guys and a lot of her friends, right? Batman says the same thing about Catwoman. First time he met her, she was a thief, but she was always holding back to protect the innocent from her crimes. And he confirmed that by looking into her eyes. So there's a lot of stuff there that a lot of people are going to love, especially first-time readers of Batman, or just people that are just walking in off the street and picking up this issue. There's stuff here that they're going to enjoy, and in that respect it worked. And with the fantastic covers, the beautiful covers and the beautiful art throughout this issue, this is a visual masterpiece in terms of the art. And even though the story is lacking substantially in substance, which I'll get to in a moment, the fact is this is a beautifully, visually gorgeous comic book, and I would recommend that people pick it up just for the art alone. And I want to give a couple more compliments before I get into the constructive criticisms. Tom King, as he has in past issues, has played particular homage to a lot of past creators. There's a lot of great scenes set up here. I'm just going to read them off. There was the Englehart bedroom, the Conway bedroom, the Fox Hall, all these named after famous past writers and artists on Batman. The O'Neill Avenue. There was the Len Wein Expressway in Gotham. There was Kane Plaza after Bob Kane. And there was also Finger Tower. Remember, it was Bill Finger and Bob Kane that created Batman. So there's a nice tribute there in the comic book. So in that respect, there was wonderful homage paid to the past creators and writers of Batman, while at the same time the art really was fantastic. So many artists, I don't have time to get into it. Enjoying Thai Lake here and sipping from my red Solo cup. Life is good, despite the fact that my favorite superhero, or one of them, never tied the knot. But let's get into the criticisms here. I mentioned before about Tweedledee and Tweedledum. There are so many things story-wise where this just plain didn't work. There's a particular scene at the beginning where Catwoman and Batman are taking down Kite Man, and Batman suggests, well, why don't we get married on the fly? So here we've had the last how many issues where they're preparing for their wedding. I thought they were preparing for the wedding, but apparently Batman out of the blue says, well, why don't we just basically not elope, but let's get married, lickety-split, while they're taking down Kite Man. And I laughed out loud when Kite Man's going down. They have no problem talking about their private lives right in front of Kite Man. And as Kite Man, gets defeated, he says that he utters that phrase, hell yeah, which was an overused phrase during the War of Jokes and Riddles. But I laughed out loud. It was kind of funny, but in a sense, it almost took me out of the moment of the story. So I have mixed feelings about it, but it was kind of funny. But Batman suggests, the Catwoman says, look, why don't we just get married? We'll get married quick. I'll have a witness. We need two witnesses. You pick a witness, I'll pick a witness. Now, Bruce Wayne, of course, picks Alfred. And there's a wonderful scene there between Bruce Wayne and Alfred where they hug. It's a great scene. Tom King's good at that. Tom King's always good at scenes with a limited dialogue and where he leaves it to the artist. If it wasn't, in fact, as usual with Tom King, if it wasn't for the artists, his stories would fail even worse than they normally do, because it's the art that saves the story, and the art of Mikel Janin in drawing those scenes, particularly between Bruce Wayne and Alfred, and scenes throughout, he makes the entire issue shine. There's a particular scene, I believe it was in Fox Hall. It was in the room Foxhall, where Selina and Bruce Wayne are walking toward each other, which I found particularly just beautifully drawn. And it's interesting that, I don't know if some of you noticed, but technically, since the wedding never took place in this issue, Bruce Wayne cheated. He actually saw the bride before the wedding. But they had to do that. If Bruce Wayne never saw Selina before the wedding, since the wedding never took place, they would not have been able to justify that swooping kiss in Foxhall there. And in particular, that cover image of Bruce and Selina kissing would not have actually taken place in the issue. It's the one thing that saved the issue in my mind, with those epic moments. But Selina has the brain-dead idea that her witness, she's going to get her friend Holly Robinson. Now, for those of you who don't remember, Holly Robinson is Selina Kyle's best friend, but she's also a psychopath who killed, remember, 237 people, wiped out an entire, basically wiped out an entire mafia group that had the audacity of destroying an orphanage. Now, while that might seem justified in some people's mind, it doesn't change the fact that she's a psychopath, and Catwoman breaks her out of Arkham Asylum. That's not something that Batman would let go. But here's where things get interesting, I think, from a storytelling point of view. Tom King is trying to create sympathy with Batwoman and Catwoman, and he's doing something with Catwoman and Batman that has never really been done before. He's focusing on their similarities, and he's downplaying their differences. He's focusing on the fact that they love each other's eyes. He's focusing on the fact that they're both creatures of the night. He's focusing on the fact that they both have alter egos that they can't escape from. He's focusing on their similarities, but he's downplaying their differences. He's downplaying the fact that the Batman turns a blind eye when Catwoman blows up a wedding boutique and steals her wedding dress. He downplays the fact that Catwoman has asked her best friend, a psychotic individual by the name of Holly Robinson, be their witness, and breaks her out of Arkham Asylum. He downplays all of Catwoman's criminal activities in order to make the story work. Or in order to force the similarities and to downplay the differences. So it's the juxtaposition of the similarities in Batman that I think ironically are drawing a lot of people to this storyline, despite the fact that it goes against their established characterizations. And I find that interesting, and I think that's one of the reasons why Tom King is such a divisive character. He juxtaposes those things. He will masterfully juxtapose differences and similarities in just the right doses that people seem to forgive him his past character transgressions and give him the benefit of the doubt moving forward. So I find that very interesting. Ultimately, Catwoman decides not to marry Batman because what I find really disappointing here is that last issue, issue 49, Catwoman has a conversation with the Joker, and the Joker basically tells her, you can't marry Batman because we need him. I mean, Gotham needs him. We all need him. We feed off him, basically, is what he was saying. And here we have in this issue, Holly Robinson essentially tells Catwoman the same thing, that, well, Batman sort of feeds off his misery. I don't know him to be happy. He doesn't know. I'm surprised he's happy. He feeds off his misery. That's who he is. He's Batman. Does he know how to be anything else? I mean, he needs his misery. That's what we're used to seeing him as. And I can't believe that these arguments actually seem to make sense to Selina, and so she ultimately decides to not even show up at the wedding. And it was a rooftop wedding, because they're always going on rooftops, so there's a lot of great inspired ideas by Tom King. But again, it didn't really follow through on it, and it was, again, the wedding never took place. Throughout this storyline, which was lacking again in a lot of substance and in my view, a lot of actual narrative common sense. It was devoid of a through line from the past issues to now that was believable. But as a one-shot, as almost a self-contained, almost imaginary story, this would work. But ultimately, it falls down when you try to put all the parts together. It just doesn't make sense. What's ultimately disappointing here is that it cannot be denied that Catwoman ultimately decides to not marry Batman because of advice she was given by the Joker and her psychotic friend Holly Robinson. And that's an insult to the character. And again, it's the relentless downplaying of the differences between Batman and Selina and Batman and Catwoman that have ultimately makes this storyline fail for me. Again, beautiful art. I could give this to someone who doesn't read a lot of Batman and they would enjoy this storyline. It was good. So I would still recommend that people pick this up. A couple of other comments I feel compelled to make is people are saying, oh, well, you know, they're going to get married in issue 100. Another 50 issues to go. They're going to get married. It's inevitable because ultimately Selena never said she wouldn't marry Bruce. It's just that the wedding isn't taking place right now. But again, another 50 issues of Tom King going nowhere with his storylines, forcing similarities that aren't really there, ignoring the differences. And it's the differences, it's the differences where the drama lies. The stories and the compelling stories lie in the differences between the characters and in the differences between people trying to make a relationship work, not their similarities. That's what Tom King doesn't really seem to understand. And I think people are being fooled into thinking that he's actually created some in-depth great characterizations here when all he's done is really nothing. All he's had is a bunch of third-party narration or omniscient narration by Catwoman and Batman, which goes nowhere. So I gotta say, overall, I gotta give this story here a 2 out of 10, but the art a 10 out of 10 easy. And guys, again, there's other things I can comment on. I will say this as a final comment about Arkham Asylum. It definitely seems to have a revolving door. When Catwoman goes to break out Holly Robinson, as she's breaking Holly Robinson out, she runs into one of the Tweedledee and Tweedledums, and there's a juxtaposition of the scenes between Batman taking down Tweedledee and Catwoman taking out Tweedledum. Apparently Batman must be aware then that she's breaking Holly out of Arkham. He doesn't seem to care. It's unbelievably hard to believe that actually takes place. But this revolving door of Arkham Asylum, also it ends with Holly Robinson reporting back to Bane, who I think through Psychopirate has control of all the inmates of Arkham again, controlling the Joker, the ventriloquist, Holly Robinson herself, as well as Gotham Girl. So all those past storylines seem to have been for naught, and it seems astonishing to me that Batman will put Psychopirate in Arkham Asylum after finally defeating him and retrieving him from Bane. So Bane's back and he's with a vengeance, so I don't know, it seems like we're retreading old storylines here, and I'm not really sure if I'm looking forward to where this is gonna go. But hey, I'm in for a penny, I'm in for a pound, right? So guys, tell me what you think. If you think I'm off my rocker, I'm drinking I'm drinking some what am I drinking? Clam eye, good stuff. Anyways, guys, tell me what you think, and it's a beautiful day here in Thai Lake, and it's July 4th, so to my American friends, happy Independence Day, and until next time, Comic Boom, out.